Hello, everyone, and thank you to this webinar on how to market compliance services in your transportation business. So, this is a rather lengthy webinar. It's going to last about an hour, and the slides that are presented here are available for distribution, but we do request that you request them via email. So, I'll have that contact information available for you at the very end. So, don't feel discouraged in trying to take the notes down from the screen because there is a slide for this entire presentation. This is just your walkthrough video to explain the slides. So without further ado, let's get started. So you may be wondering, what is compliance? Well, simply put, compliance just means what are the rules of your particular area of practice. So let's look at some common areas of trucking compliance. First, we have the regulations, which are the FMCSR. Then we have legal considerations, insurance considerations, equipment as well as safety compliance, and last but not least, driver monitoring or driver compliance. The last two, number 4 and 5, are actually really in depth areas. So I'm going to be touching lightly on them, but look forward to having additional, more deeper dives into those two content areas. All right, the regulations. So, what are the regulations? The regulations are the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, also known as FMCSR, and can include the hazardous material regulations, which are the HMRs, that set forth minimum safety standards for any motor carrier and driver. So the gist of that is these are the rules of how to comply on the federal level made for the trucking companies and certain drivers. Now, I do say certain drivers because it explicitly tells you about your CDL licensed drivers. However, it does have provisions when we start talking about driver monitoring, driver compliance, that non CDL drivers have to comply with as well. So there's very explicit information on CDL drivers, but there's some inclusion of the non CDL drivers within the regulations too. So it's Title 49 of the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations that is in this book that you see right here. Now, I've listed two sources, and let me see if I'm able to do live links with you. And absolutely, I am. So, this is our first source, which is from FMCSA directly, and this is the Safety Planner. So, this is your electronic at a glance version of the book. I like this because it's got instant updates to it, so you don't have to worry if your book is outdated. But the book is also a great, not just a doorstop, but it's a great resource because that very first page is a driver receipt. Everyone should have access to this information, and that's why I'm putting together this video to share. So if you browse this part right here, you'll notice it breaks down the chapters, and you can open up each chapter with hyperlinks for additional information. It also gives you the ability, if you do want to just do one particular part of the citations, then you can print those out, you can download them to share. So this is a very user-friendly website, and it's coming from the source of FMCSA. And then if you want to have, again, something that's already pre-bound, nice little pocket size edition, JJ Keller, which is a third party, creates some compliance materials, and this is a very popular book. Again, this does not come from FMCSA, but it comes from JJ Keller, which is a very well-renowned and respected compliance company. So this is their book that has these regulations printed out in the smaller version. Let's talk a moment about back office services. And I'm using this term very explicitly to say you're going to run across difficulty in Googling back office services to find these type of services. That's really something we relate to more on a slang term, if you would, than a proper acknowledgement of the type of work that's being done. So we'll talk here in the next slide as far as other things you can look for to research and get a better idea of, as the industry as a whole, what it's called, so you can model after businesses that you really like how they have it set up and what it is they're doing. Because this isn't a new thing, it's just a revisited concept that's kind of going around. So if you'll notice, I say that you must clearly define what it is you're offering to your clients. You have to be very explicit in that because there's going to be a lot of assumptions, um, because mostly your newer trucking companies are going to be drawn to this service and they don't have a full understanding of what it is exactly that you do. So they're going to assume that you do everything, and you have to be really explicit on what it is you do offer and what it is you don't. Because if any way that you just say, I offer back office services, as I just said, that's not really a term, then it gets confusing, especially in the court of law, of what you're really offering. So my bullet points on the right say a scope of work is needed to be defined in your agreement. So your carrier packet, your onboarding packet, whatever you're referring it to, because this presentation, even though it's geared a little more towards your dispatchers, it is still just effective for anyone who's looking at adding compliance to their transportation business. You could be a driver and offer compliance services to other drivers. You can be a freight broker, and this is again how to onboard and better educate your your truck companies that work with you there. And again, of course, the owner operator is should be very invested in learning this process for themselves, if not for an added stream of income. So also you need to keep any documentation for up to 3 years. All of that's auditable for up to 3 years, not 1 year, but three. And then they have a consistent onboarding process to which you're saying the same thing the same way each time to all of your clients. So let's take a quick peek at these resources here. This first one, Better Proposals, if you notice, the link takes you directly, sorry for the pop-up, to what's called a free statement of work. So when I refer to a scope of work, that's a little bit more of a project management term. Um, and it's the same as a statement of work. So if you want to call it scope of work, statement of work, but here are some examples based on the types of business, like an e-commerce website that tells you exactly what it is you do, a projected timeline and how you do it, and what would actually cancel or void this agreement. I like this website for two reasons. It makes it very easy at a glance. It color codes it, and you can have fun with it, as well as it having some pre designed templates that you can use. Here's the general one, so you can use different things. It is a premium service. There is a price, but also with the price, there's an opportunity to offer this to your clients. So you can become a partner. You can do it as an affiliate. You can offer this service to other companies, again, depending what all you can, what services and how you do your business. But I also like this Learn tab because it gives you just a lot of information on how to be a better business owner, especially as a consultant. It really helps out with some of these blogs and proposals and such like this. If you don't like this software or want to search other types of similar software, it already gives you the list of alternatives. So check out this list as well, just to see different features if this is overbearing for you. But in my personal experience, I've just found this to be really simple. I like it. The second one is when we spoke about having a 3-year hold on your documentation. A lot of times it's very difficult to keep up with paper in that way. So if you go paperless and make an electronic filing system, it allows you to keep document integrity. And so this is just an article. It's not a product, but it's an article. There are some product mentions here on the side of how you'll go about doing it. But I just want to bring this main part to attention because what you'll find when you research an electronic filing system is a vast array of choices. And so make sure you're keeping your own budget, whether you're looking for free or something already done. The learning curve, as I mentioned with the previous website, sometimes it's a lot of features, but it's also a lot of things to learn. So make sure that you're picking something you can implement and implement consistently. And then lastly, there's a such thing with all these online subscriptions and stuff called the number of users or user licenses. And you need to just make sure that you're aware if you're purchasing anything, how many people actually have access to the information you have. Is it better to have one master login to where anybody's going to be able to use that same login, but then you would not be able to see what each individual who has that login is doing? And so that's the purpose of having multiple user accounts, because everyone will have an individual login and their information that they do on that side of the portal will remain, attached to their login. All right, the next one is we spoke a little bit about job descriptions, and a job description that I saw that fits really well with someone offering back office support is a virtual assistant. I do realize some people feel like, the word assistant is very demeaning, but I mean, I love it. An administrative assistant, virtual assistant, whatever you want to call yourself, it's really to indicate that you are acting on behalf of another person. And we'll do a whole nother training, but you have to be explicitly careful if you are doing this type of work because mistakes can fall on you and mistakes do cost money. And although they may not cost you money directly, I'm pretty sure if a trucking company loses a good amount of money and it's at your hands, they will find you, follow up with you, and make you accountable financially to, the harm done. And so just be very careful. But this virtual assistant, as far as your organizing communication, it has a lot of bullet points. This article is just really good way. And then you can search actually other type of titles for this same kind of information to be able to find. That's really how I use this. But Breezy HR is a, again, premium product, but their resources are awesome. Again, if you're not familiar with the human resource space, hiring, firing, the things you need to do to make sure you're compliant, this is a great resource to learn very quickly in a very fun way, even. I would add that word, in a very fun, non legal ease type way. And then lastly, I spoke of making sure you have a consistent onboarding process. And so this website is an informational article on the effectiveness of onboarding. And so they break it down to the 5 C's, being compliance, which is what we're talking about, clarification, culture, connection, and check back. So I'm not going to go into the article, but that's what this final resource on this page is. Again, if you're not very familiar with how human resource management works, this is a great way to ramp up on that knowledge very quickly. I like to keep tabs clear as possible, so I'm going to take off all but this tab because we'll refer to that again. All right. When we talk about back office services, and again, I'm using that word to be very purposeful, pricing matters and the community is small. So I start off with saying those two things because you don't want to be known in the community as being someone who is gouging your price. Now, you are being paid for your time and expertise to assist with your trucking company, or again, as the trucking company, this really wouldn't pertain to you. But if you're charging for these services, keep in mind the more expensive that you are, the higher liability you subject yourself to. People will naturally assume if I pay a lot for someone's time that they're an expert or they have a lot to offer other than what someone else might be. So make sure you're very deliberate with your pricing and that you can justify your pricing. Other key things in offering back office services is to make sure that you're using forms that collect a date and time. I really like that time aspect as well because several things can change during the course of a day. So, this type of communication can be simply an email. Everything you do is via email because your emails have time and date stamps. If you want to be a little more formal or be able to have the ability to embed, your forms, your technology into websites, landing pages, SMS messaging, just make sure that you're looking for um, products that offer that date and timestamp. I'm not going to click on that first one under resources for Cognito forms, but this is what I personally use in both my agency as the marketing agency and the insurance agency. I really like just the ease of the form. It allows for a lot of workflows. I could do an if and type situation and it'll think other than it just being a form. And the best yet, it's free. So you can sign up for Cognito forms, but there are tons of forms out there. Google has their own form. Just make sure, and I keep bringing this point up because there's a lot of them again that are out there that do not offer date and time. And date and time just helps you keep organized in a conversation that requires multiple attempts at getting this information. The second bullet point is but maybe consider recording your phone calls or doing video chats that are recorded with your clients. Um, you should always be having a step from collecting information in print form to some kind of verbal acknowledgement of it. It's even more important because, unfortunately, again, with your area of practice, and I'm going to call it that, of offering back office services is not a regulated area, your documents don't have a whole lot of legal teeth, which means you take it to a court of law and it may not be as strong as having, like, say, a real estate type document. And I can go on and on about documentation, but if you're from, any other industry, you'll realize the importance of these forms. Forms are not just forms and agreements are not just like paper, to try to get someone to do it. A lot of them have to be vetted for the way they word their information, their legal compliance piece, which we're actually going to talk about here in about a couple of slides. There's a lot that truly goes into forms. So I'll pause on that one. You may want to consider recording your calls or your video chats. Now, notice I don't say record your text messages because, again, that is not verbal, but written communication. It's just in a shorter form. So you already can have records of that. But try to have some type of verbal communication and agreement where they're saying, yes, I understand this is your fee. Yes, I understand this is how we get started. And more importantly, yes, I understand this is what you're doing for me. All right, this next one, many of us are, excuse me, probably at our wits' end with Zoom. And so that's not to be said in a disrespectful way. It's just a reminder that it's it's been a lot. It's been a long year plus. So you can click here to find other Zoom alternatives, especially other programs that offer unlimited video conferencing time for free. Those are always great, and you'll find those at this second resource tab. And lastly, we're going to click on here because I do want to do a walkthrough of this website, but we're going to see how the term back office services is not really a true industry term. Better terms to search by, as we're looking here at my research tips, would be supply chain, logistics, distribution, carrier, transportation, trucking, affiliates, services. Those are more aligned terms to what back office services really are. So let's click on this website here, and I'm actually going to go to the home page and then back up to where this link directly puts you. So this is the home page for the North American Transportation Services Association. And so this is what this term of compliance of back office is more closely associated with. It's a transportation service. So as you go here to members, which membership in this organization, I'm a member as well, is just $250 for the year, so pretty reasonable, and allows you to reach a very broad market because this is a fairly old association. And so it's been around and it gives you some instant credibility in your networking. But when we go to members and click on services, you're going to see a list of services that can be offered and commonly categorized. So you're seeing really a plethora of information, and some of which you may not have even considered as being a true service. So the 2290, if you're not familiar, and let me actually make this a little larger. All right, the 2290 is your heavy use tax form. So, of course, filling out the tax forms for people, doing IFTAs, wherever that is on my list real quick. This is a custom brokerage place, so it puts brokering, as in customs brokering, kind of on that level. Bookkeeping services, helping to get licensed, training for CDL, drug and alcohol collection, the specimen collection, as well as being helping with queries with the Drug and Alcohol Consortium, factoring, dispatcher, freight broker, IFTA right here. You could do hazmat permits, simply even helping people get their EIN number. I hope what you're seeing in this list, of course, insurance, more truck, which is your tags for your IRP, notary, payroll, fuel cards. I'm going to do another training on pilot cars, so let's stay tuned. But oversized permits and pilot cars, something that goes hand in hand. So we'll talk more about that in another training, because that is a huge opportunity that I think not a lot of people are aware of. Helping people do the US DOT filings, so setting up the authorities. And I think this is what most people who offer the back office service truly do. So you can click on here just to show you, and you'll see other organizations that offer this type of service. You'll be able to read up on them. You can connect with them, because it's always good to know people in this industry. But you could also just visit the website, and I just did this one randomly. And my website, my information is moving really slow. All right. But you could check out their websites. Like I said, my internet's kind of moving slow. Check out their websites to see if these are services and that you would offer, and how to even offer them. Okay, I think it might be their website. So this is just another one that was on that list. Right here, they offer compliance. It's a drop down. You see how they have everything listed. FR. So these are things. And then you can borrow, and I'll say it like that, borrow some of their wording, because there's nothing wrong with it. Words being used in a clear and concise manner are always a good deal. All right. So let's get back to our presentation here. As we just go on into this next part, let me go back and change this so everyone can see. Legal considerations. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because legal is pretty cut and dry. My bullet points is you need to resist the urge to use templates you're finding randomly on the internet. A lot of times, if you're looking for templates you're finding on the internet, you do not know the source and how they were created, unless you went to again, reputable source. And then that's fine to use those templates because, like, going to FMCSA themselves, and they have a lot of documents already there, a lot of templates. That is a renowned source that would match that. But if you're just Googling and you're picking the first PDF that pops up, I would question that. The reason you don't want to, do copy and paste is that third bullet point. Each state has different rules. So you may inadvertently have gotten a document, let's say written in Texas or with Texas language, and you live in North Carolina. And so as you try to make your document enforceable in North Carolina, there's going to be provisions that read different that may not fit, therefore make your whole agreement void or incorrect. But the second bullet point, which I should have made the first, is really where I want to spend just a few moments to just make sure of anything in this little area that you have this part crystal clear. And this is stuff that can actually get you into legal trouble. Jail time is involved with it, but more so, they're just going to hit you in your pocketbook. And that's the interpretation of forms, meaning practicing law without a license. Now, if you are interpreting the forms, which means you are digest, um, digesting, you're rewording the forms and not giving a copy of the original to whoever you're working with, I'm not saying that you can't help someone with the form. That is totally different. That's not an interpretation. But you have to give them the original. You have to give them the original, and you have to give people choices to avoid being slapped on the wrist for interpreting law. Interpreting law, if you would even think of it more as, if I came to you and you just told me to do something, again, resting on your advice, your knowledge, your credentials, your experience, I will come to you to be like, what do I do? And you give me that one answer of, you need to do this. If you find yourself in that seat, I hope that you also have the license to do that. So, an example with insurance, that's why I have an insurance license that gives me the ability to talk about policy structure, not necessarily rates, because that's a little more in depth, and I'll break that down in another time if needed be. But I can talk about policy structure because I've been educated on it. I've been licensed. I had to pass, competency exams, and also have to keep up with continuing education just to be able to say, I understand how this form works. I understand how your policy will work with these scenarios. Same like lawyers. A lawyer can go to law school, graduate, but not be able to practice until they pass the bar in their given state. The bar will in turn allow them to be licensed and admitted to practice law in that particular state. So they have to make sure they know the rules in regards to law of these different states to which they want to practice in, so they can be held liable for sending, advising people on what to do in that area. So I know that was a lot to say, but please don't get caught. And how people get caught with this interpretation is when your client, innocently enough, comes back and blames you for, you were the one that told them to do this. You were the one that said. And that's usually how that conversation goes, just as innocent as that. Usually that conversation was preceded by something that cost them money. So let's say you set up, or you did a permit and you did it incorrectly. There was a typo and it cost them either time and money, time or money, or embarrassment. So now they want to come at you for this mistake. And their words will be, you cost me money, time, reputation. And depending on how you respond, a lot of times, because some of this is just, misunderstanding, and apology would be sufficient. But if it was enough damage done, they can actually sue you for damages. And you just don't want it to come up that you were also in the wrong in some other areas. All right. And also keep in mind, operational procedures with these different trucking companies do vary. As a boss, you get to control it. You get to run your company the way you want to. And running that company the way you want to within, guidelines, and having it written out is going to be different from each trucking company. So because operations vary, you need to make sure that you are in compliance, or they're in compliance even, with how the legal enforcement of, if something goes left, can take place. So I did have two resources here. The first one is the trucker's lawyer. Ashley Baker is a admitted attorney in Pennsylvania. And so this is her website. She has a book called The Art of Commercial Trucking. She has some other resources here on our website, so you could check it out. But the reason I enlisted her is because she's also available in our Minority Women in Logistics group. She is a group member. And so just allowing you to build a personal connection as well as a professional connection is always the goal of MyOwnLane consultants. The second one is a little bit of a plug for me. I use a service myself, both in my business as well as offering it to my clients. And you won't hear me talk about it a lot, but this is the area to which I can share. And it's Legal Shield. So Legal Shield has been around for 40 plus years. Like I said, I was introduced to it as a corporate benefit. I got it on a personal level at first because I had a huge discount. I want to say I paid like $8, every paycheck to have that coverage to cover my family and myself from a lot of, personal things that can happen, give us peace of mind. But you can also do it on professional levels. And so you can click on any one of these tabs. Let me make sure this is large enough. Any one of these tabs to learn more about it. If you're wanting to also offer this to your clientele, because like I said, you can offer the CDL, which we'll do another video just on everything it's offering. But you can, again, like I said, use the resource, click the link, but you can become an associate too. And there's a special right here for $99 to be able to offer it and be paid off of, allowing people to have access to this information. And as you see right here, it basically allows you for, depending on a personal or professional level, but on that professional level is $49. And I'll click right here just so you'll see. But starting at $49, you have access to a state-based, you have access to a law firm that is based in your state, because they, again, need to be specific. They will be able to review any of your documents. They can actually draft your documents, so they can do calls and letters on your behalf. They can review your contracts and documents, and they're really good at debt collection letters. It's nothing like when, someone says they're not going to pay you, but then they get a letter from a law firm, how quickly they decide to go ahead and just, not cause trouble. So that's something that's already built in here. And I'm pretty sure you can agree, you're not going to have a lawyer unless they owe you a favor. Do it for $49. And this is no commitment. It's based, it's good to have it. And like I said, I've had it many years, but there's no commitment and how long. There's no pre-cancellation or anything. It's a month-to-month deal. All right, now we're going to this next area. And I'm also just going to speak real briefly on this. And this is insurance considerations. The things I just want you to take away from this slide is that insurance is a highly regulated field. It's right up there with trucking, to where we can be audited, and each dollar that our agency owns or receives has to be connected to, a service that's insurance related. So we have to make sure separate bank accounts, the whole nine. So with that being said, there's certain things that an insurance company and agency should do. And most importantly is that when a quote is being given, you can help out with the application. You can be involved again as a third party, getting everything together. No problems with it. But then there comes the time where the actual person who's going to be covered by the insurance needs to be involved. And so that's what that second bullet point means, that the principal must be involved. They need to know about what's being said, what's being offered, and whether or not they pay directly. That's a kind of a gray area too. But if you're getting insurance for them, they have to be the one to listen and hear and evaluate and approve what goes on that. You can advise them as a third party, but if you want to really get into policy interpretation, you need to be licensed, or partner with a licensed insurance professional. Your insurance has to align to these FMCSRs, and that's why I'm bringing it up in this presentation, because without insurance and the right kind of insurance, there is no authority. So two ways to just resources is, if you need to check out if someone is truly able to do business and communicate with you in this way, check them out, their profile on that particular state's Department of Insurance website. So if you go right now to tdi.gov, which is the Texas Department of Insurance website, you'll see a button that says Agent Lookup. You click on that button and you could put my name, Lotta Hawkins, to see my credentials. So all of that's public record. Again, just like trucking, you need to know who your professionals are, and this is a way to vet them. Secondly, it's just a reminder, when you're asking about vehicle alignment, whether this insurance policy fits, if this is what I need, and you need to check it out, because the next stop that many people have right after they get their insurance is they need to go, get their tags. And so if you're looking to research the information before you wait in line before you go there, because you are going to have documentation, make sure you're visiting the state office of their commercial side. So not the regular DMV, even though many places have it maybe under one building, but you need to go to the commercial motor vehicle or that Department of Transportation for your particular state. All right, as I mentioned here, and we're doing really good on time, this part is very lengthy. There will be additional trainings offered just on equipment and safety, but this is just a high-level view of this area of compliance. The first bullet point is, this is the entire goal of the FMCSA. The Federal Motor, and I have the typo, excuse me, the Federal Motor Carrier, so it's FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. All of their regulations are based around safety. So you can already see how important it is, and how this is an area that most of that green book, most of the website deals with. So if you're not familiar with the equipment, how it works, how to be safe, what the specs are, a partnership would be key. Partnering with mechanic shops, so you can have a certified mechanic, or at least just someone who knows the regs like that, give you the insights on, you should have tire tread of this amount. You should have conspicuous, I can never say the name, but you should have reflective tape on your trailer to cover at least half of it. Your signage needs to be so many inches by so many inches. So this is going to be their area of expertise. So partnerships, and again, you might be that partner. If this is the area you want to focus on, you might offer this service exclusively to your clients, or again, in combination. But this is an area, if you're not very familiar with, you'll need to have a partner. Keep in mind that all trucking companies are responsible for training their drivers and their staff on how to be safe. This is technically the role of a safety manager. And so just as when you start up a new company and you have an LLC, you have to determine what your titles are. You're going to notice, as a small company, you're going to have multiple titles. You could be the company representative, in addition to a managing director, in addition to a safety manager, operations manager, something of that. But this is yet another role that needs to be identified for every single trucking company. So you don't have to be part of the company to be a safety manager. Again, it is a role. So if you want to offer this service to your client and offer them that to become their safety manager and help them stay in regulation with these issues, that's a very fair way to do it. So let's talk about real quickly the responsibilities. I'm actually going to go from bottom up on this slide. The first one, as I said, the carrier is responsible for all training in this area. And so one of the main things that, especially here recent, comes up is ELD. And if you're not familiar with ELD, it's an electronic logging device. So this is a great resource, again, coming from the source, FMCSA, on how to carry out ELD carrier driver training. So this is already done for you. It's free. It gives you all the little tips and rules right here at this one link. So this is something to dive into. Another resource, if this seems, again, very complicated to understand, is just going directly to your vendor. So if you use Keep Trucking for an ELD, they have YouTube videos, they have a customer service department, they have a training manual, which, by the way, you'll need to have in the truck. So no matter what ELD unit you have, whether you bought it new, if you leased it, if it was given to you, you need to have the operation manual in the truck because DOT can fine you for that. You have to be able to pull up, what these buttons on this ELD mean. So that is an area every trucking company, it's part of their audit, needs to make sure that they understand how to conduct training of their drivers. All right, we talk about safety, and another big area. It's not, it's being asked for, but there's a lot of flexibility in it, and that is your safety and procedures manual. I like this website just because it gives you, like a template, even though I said I'm not a big fan of template, it gives you an outline of how to put things together from that safety perspective. It also has some courses on here if you want to read and learn a little more about these areas. Just again, so you can really help your company, help the company that you service, tips for employees who drive, vehicle inspections, all these are available. Quizzes, that's a great little fun way to present information and also to make sure people are understanding what it is you're saying. So check out this website, Road Safety at Work. It's really interesting. This next one, if you want to go through an official program to earn a professional certification for a safety manager, that's what this website can help you with. This is the North American Transportation Management Institute. This is a highly respected organization in regards to safety. See, it's got all this information. So you can learn about hazmat. You can learn about the safety certifications. They offer both online as well as in-person programs. I'll just tell you now, they are not cheap. It is an investment, and they really jump in with the expectation that you're kind of already familiar with the industry. So if you're not there yet, poke around on this website, learn, download some, consider taking some of their on-demand mini courses before enrolling into the full certifications. But this is a very industry respected organization. And then lastly, but not leastly, is our NTTS Breakdown app. Now this is an app, so it doesn't look that great on a desktop, but all it basically does is allows you to search for information such as truck repair, towing, all this stuff. And this is an advertiser app, and it gives you an opportunity if you offer these services on how to advertise. So everything that shows up truly are advertisements, but it just means people that are motivated to get the information out to the trucking industry. So I'm clicking on tires, and I just got to verify. And so, Love's pops up as well as this really small company, Ufala. And I may be saying it wrong, but it shows, the information. They're 24 hours, has a phone number. Most of them are 24 hours, but again, depending where you are. So this is a great resource for you to have in your pocket. It's a great networking resource as you can reach out and really like talk to these people, because if they paid to advertise, they want to be known. They don't mind building connections. So I like to even look for some of the smaller companies, while this one, and like I said, I don't know how big tire brokers are, but we know how large Love's truck stop is. So it might be a little more difficult to connect with the Love's truck stop, even though they're franchised. As you see, this is the number 566. Then it might be to connect to Abby's, which might be a, one person operation. So check this out. It's an app. You can educate your drivers on how to use it, or you can use it as a way to network what your services are. If you again deal with the safety, tires and brakes are the big areas of safety. And so if you have a relationship with a tire company and say, hey, if you tell the people coming in here looking for tires that I help them, clean up their safety scores or whatever that might be, in exchange for me telling people to go use you because you're a great place that sells tires. That's a win-win relationship. So this is just a really quick database on how to find people. Right. We're to our last section here. So hopefully you've been taking great notes, but this is a video for you to stop, repeat, all this other stuff. All right. Last but definitely not least, as in this is the booger bear of compliance. And I use that word with most love and respect, but this is the most mishandled area for trucking compliance. This is where most people get in trouble, most people need help, and potentially the most expensive area in which to not be up on, to be out of compliance in. So this entire area is denoted in Chapter 6 of those regulations. So you can read the rules, really dig in and learn this. But this area is essentially the Human Resources Department. And Human Resources Department, as things have come along in business, don't really get the respect they deserve. And I'm speaking a little bit out of bias because I went to college for human resources. My degree is in human resources as well as marketing. I have a marketing minor. So I'm a little partial to this. I also have a master's or master's certificate, technically, in conflict resolution. So I'm really about people. I'm highly sensitive to people's needs and just making sure they're advocated and taken care of within the work environment, especially because we all know it's already hard enough to just be doing your line of work. We have good days and bad days, but really what makes work hard is when your employer doesn't value you as an employee. And even let's give respects to ourselves. If you are the boss, you are owner and employee all in one, but you need to make sure you're respecting yourself. You need to make sure that you get the benefits of being owner operator, without misrepresentation, and making sure that you stay compliant in this area. So we're going to go bottom up on this one as well, focusing on my third bullet point because I just covered bullet points 1 and 2 already. I'm going to mention 3 here, or not 3, but 4 real quickly. Timelines are also another way that people get messed up in this area because these timelines are crucial. Some of the stuff, if it's not documented, if it's not done in the time window prescribed, you might as well just get your checkbook out because you're going to get a fine for violating how this goes outside. And yes, this is the area to which hours of service can fall under. Hours of service can also fall under your equipment management, but more so it is a HR function. It's your driver qualification function because they need to be educated on how to keep up with these hours of service. It has to do a lot with their protection. The hours of service are so you won't have tired, fatigued, worn out drivers behind the wheel. So that's why I'm lumping hours of service, and many people do, but it can be kind of covered in one of the two areas. So let's look at this last one again on bullet point number 3. This area of compliance is about human resources, and we're going to talk about statutory employees. And I'm going to spend a moment here. Statutory employees. And yes, this is just a link to a website. But what kind of website is it? If I can just ask you to take a moment to look at that and wonder why I'm focusing on an attorney, in fact, an injury lawyer. In fact, this is what we're all afraid of, right? In the trucking industry, because we hear all the commercials, and especially out here in Texas, about, I'm the trucking lawyer, I do this, I sue for wrongful death and injury. So it's a big thing. And these are the people, as you see on the website, what are they bragging about? $55 million. They're bragging about how they get their clients paid. But guess where those paychecks come from? From your insurance and even you. Because if your insurance isn't enough to cover it, if you don't have your structures and stuff in place, your trucking company, speaking to trucking companies, even, and again, this is why this is a presentation both for the trucking company owners as well as those who service them, because this is the area to where a lot of finger pointing happens. So let's go ahead and look up this regulation, because this, you may know people in violation right now. So I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm going to do some highlights, but it says the federal regulations have now eliminated. Yes, that word is not by mistake. It's not a soft word either or, but they have eliminated. They are no longer considering this, which is the independent contractor defense when it comes to trucking. They are eliminating it. So let's read into the article. So it talks about the FMCSARs. Absolutely. So again, it's not a questionable thing, and it gives you the reference. Go into your book, look up 390.5. Absolutely. And in legal terms, if you're not familiar with them, when they use those strong words like absolutely, shall, must, will, that means no shadows, no shadow of doubts. You got to do it. But they have absolutely eliminated the distinction between an independent contractor and an employee. There is no legal, and I'm going to stress that word again, there are no legal separations. You can have a matter of a operational agreement, but when it comes to the legal liability, which is really what cost all this money, you cannot say that this person is an independent contractor. I am not responsible for their accidental manslaughter charge while they were carrying a load for me. So unfortunately, that is your responsibility. So it just really stresses the importance of making sure you are fully aware and in control of all the operations of how you're training your drivers. Training, if you are the driver yourself, that you're extra careful about how this liability pans out. So again, no more distinction between being independent contractor nor employee. So it says any driver, including an independent contractor, is now deemed as a statutory employee and as such can no longer escape the liability through the use of linguistic gymnastics. Again, this is a law firm being creative, and they're kind of negatively, talking a little crazy about um, defense lawyers, people who have to protect the trucking company. They're saying, yeah, they're being creative, trying to say they're not responsible, but now the law has said you can be responsible for the actions of your independent contractor as they were operating under your business. So it goes into pretty good detail, but what I liked about this article is it kind of had some question and answers to make it more relevant for you to better understand how this applies, where it applies. It gives you other lawsuits to where this was, what the results. So if you're really into this, you can look into it more intense and find out what happened there. Why did they lose their case? How did it end up at the Supreme Court level? How did it end up in an appellate court level? You could research these cases. So you could get in depth, but this is where the big money, and this is why you have $1 million insurance policy. This is why FMCSA has all these regulations. It's to have that legal um, standpoint and all of that. So if you weren't already aware, and this just happens pretty solidly this year. It's kind of been back and forth in court, and that's what all this is with, these different lawsuits, and people have been following it, but they just made it official as far as when this part went into play. All right. It's pretty scary stuff, right? All right. For essence of time, these other two links are really quick. They're one-sided, so not a lot to them, but great resources once again. This is Avatar Fleet. If you are looking for a one-stop shop and you're price sensitive, as we all are, as far as like finding something that's going to be able to do one piece of software that can do really everything you need in regards to hiring and maintaining and training employees, this is a great resource to start. I listed on my slide one of the representatives that I've personally worked with, Horace Bragg, really down to earth young man that can explain it and even offer you some discounts. So make sure if you do look into this, mention my name and ask for Horace, who should still be there, but just kind of as you're watching this video, update me if that is not the case. But they have software and solutions to help you target drivers for your recruitment process. They have like software that'll help you send links and get this information. They have compliance software and they have training information. Because as I said, all these trucking companies are responsible for training, and many people don't know how to train. And so you can have, videos and different things there. They also have a really good blog. Once again, their blog, and they have downloadable guides to where you can download this information to help out your client, the trucking company. If they're not believing that this stuff is real, or again, second to you having to recreate the wheel and come up with your own ebook and do this, just go ahead and share this information. That's what it's here for. And the only cost is of your email address that you downloaded this information. But right here, 12 driver training courses that you can use for your safety meetings. And so download the ebook, learn about it, share this with your clients. You shouldn't be super protective over some of your resources, because this will actually add credibility that you are facilitating this connection, that these are, again, operational big companies that will support and help you out. And last but not least, this is a company called Verified MVR, or excuse me, Verified First. I'll click on it. And what they do is offer you to do the background checks as well as MVRs and stuff without having to pay for a subscription. So I'm going to make that a little bigger. So there's no long-term contracts. They do have like a contract, but you don't have to have a monthly fee. Right here it says there's no minimum background screens you have to do, no annual commitments, fast turnarounds, because as you need to know about the MVRs, if you're not asking them to bring a copy of their MVR to you for review, and it needs to be within the past 30 days, then you need to go get it. And this is a resource to go get it, as well as going directly to the state. But when you go directly to the state, they're going to want to know, why are you requesting it and not your driver? So, either you work it in your process that you help your driver, with a form sign off to go ahead and order it for them, or require that they bring it. But if you want just to, get it yourself, pay the fee to get it yourself, this is a resource. All right. In closing on this area of driver qualifications, like I said, we'll do a whole separate training because this is a huge area, just like equipment. Areas to make sure you're focusing on, or where areas have been noted that people get in trouble, is that monitoring factor. So monitoring your driver's violations, because you're not going to get instant notifications that someone had a speeding ticket over the weekend. That stuff takes time for it to come up, but unfortunately, sometimes by the time it comes up, there's very little you can do to have it removed. So just knowing when your driver had a fun weekend or was in a hurry coming back from that fun weekend is really crucial. Um, and this is an area that people struggle on how to tactfully monitor violations that happen. Also, if they have an expiring driver's license, it's their birthday coming up at the end of the month and they're on the road, and, their license is about to be invalid, and you cannot afford an invalid driver's license, because if something happens and they were to get in an accident, it could be said they were driving without their license. And also for fines on your company too. They get pulled over, they're going through a roadside inspection, they look at the date on the license and it's not the current license, they're going to get a ticket. And so a lot of times they'll get the ticket, but sometimes you'll get the ticket as the trucking company too, because you didn't check this information. So this is another area that frequently goes between the cracks, because people are not making it a habit of continually checking back on where people are. And then lastly, incomplete files. So making sure that a file is completed, and that an owner actually needs to have one too if they're in fact a driver. So if you're just an owner that, owns financial stake in your company, you help with operations, but you're never behind the wheel, you're not going to need a DQ file. But if you are in fact a driver, you need a file. That's a quick way to remember that. All right, we're right here at the top of the hour. And so this is closing. I'm a little over time, but hopefully you'll bear for these last remarks. Just your closing summary is, if you want to offer compliance back office services, don't feel like you have to do them directly. Doing them in partnership actually is a very effective way to do so. And in partnering with places, don't think it needs to be a dollar for dollar transaction. Because if they are willing to say, hey, I'm going to give you $20 for every referral you send of someone who needs me to be their bookkeeper, what about creating a relationship to where, you don't put a dollar amount on it, and just know that they're going to charge their regular fees, which is, again, what every business owner has the right to do. And you're sending them business for them to send you business, and I'll tell you, it's going to be far more exceeding than just that $25 or whatever you guys work out. And it actually opens the doors to more referrals, because people aren't kind of afraid that, oh, this person, I owe them stuff. And it keeps you from that pressure of having to sell it too, because now this in between party, the trucking company, may lose out on a service because you don't have a partner, because you didn't feel like you were going to get a $25 gift card in order to refer them to a valuable resource. So they're going to start searching on their own. And then that may even cause you to lose this client long term, because you didn't offer them services that they ended up finding on their own. So please look at the big picture of everything. And lastly, I just want to give you the empowerment, the confidence to know that people come to you as a compliance and back office professional because the real product is you. They're looking for education and a connection to help them through this process. So don't be intimidated that you don't know a whole lot about certain areas because that's where you partner to get your resources. But be empowered to know that people trust in you, they like you, they know that you are known in this area, and take pride on that being your product because that cannot be duplicated nor replaced. So this is a weekly series. If you want a copy of the presentation, as I mentioned, so you can click on the slides, please email me at info@myownlaneconsultants.com. That's my business card as a transportation risk and insurance professional. It has my personal cell phone, which is my business cell phone. I'm kind of one and the same, listed there below. But if you would like to keep in touch with these weekly Zoom recordings, also really more so attend live, which was the true intention of this, but this initial live presentation was deleted by Zoom, and I don't know how that happened. As you see, I'm using StreamYard right now to make sure it didn't happen again. So if you would like to sign up for the weekly topics, have a suggested topic of an area of compliance that you want to learn about, just email me the same. Say, Lotta, I'm looking to learn more about that ELD training. I will make sure I get the experts because I am not the ELD training expert. I will get experts together for you. We'll do a presentation. And again, at this $20 per session price point. Thank you again for watching the video. As this is being shared, please share it with others you think that this can be beneficial to. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out for the remainder. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.